And now one of our most accomplished and visionary architects. Please welcome Pritzker Prize winner, Zaha Hadid.
I'm already falling apart, apologies. Nothing has improved in thousands of years with this microphone, sorry. In architecture, there's been many innovations, but I will focus predominantly on one, which is we try to do for the past 20 years, is about how to innovate space. It's about density. No, well, I think we're going backwards. Okay. Through many techniques like layering, juxtapositions, superimposition, we found that we can create a very deep space, multi-layered and also a kind of all-inclusive. It's about networking not only digitally, but working in terms of space that people can see from one spot to the other. So there are all these, what are called space of flying, which is they can see through space from one domain to the next. They can see throughout the building. And this is devised through, sometimes through curvature, but predominantly through these layerings or reorganization of the built environment. So from this image, you can see from very different locations, from above, from below, from sideways, you see deep into space. And these techniques really came through many years of looking at how one can include all these people in this situation. Even in workspace, like the BMW plant, where the idea of workspace could be that these are kind of plateaus which can then see the cars moving, they can audit the car, they can see through the building to the outside. So you begin to see through all the layers of these buildings. So this is from the platforms looking into production. So the idea of production with work, two kinds of kind of working environments all merged together to produce one thing. The Soho China project in the Galaxy, which is reconfiguring the urban diagram with a very large site in the city, adjacent to rather kind of undeveloped areas, but to make almost like a landscape of these different layers. So you are totally immersed into space, and you are connected visually and also programmatically between workspace, shopping, meandering, moving, and so on. So this is the many different layers of one city block. So you have invested kind of density within one space, and you begin to see one from one place to the other. So so this is not only layered horizontally, but layered also vertically. So there's kind of different layers. So you are always aware in terms of networking. You're always aware what neighbors are doing, what is going on in your adjacent sites, what is going on the exterior. This is in the night when it kind of first opened. You can see all the people kind of populating all the different layers of the building. How the interior is used as a public domain, as a public space. So through these kind of techniques, you can devise maybe many different layers of public spaces. And I think the focus has been on our office to focus on how to suck into any given building the public domain or civic domain. So these are the kind of also organized in terms of horizontal layers. This shows we're touring through the project. So it shows this kind of rich variety of spaces within the building. And eventually when it opens, it will be kind of really mostly retail and office on the ground and higher up, and then it's all offices above. So they are within the building, and also there are atrias. There are two levels of public spaces. There is an external one, and there is also the internal atria, which can have can collect people. This was a talk, and so all the crowd can actually congregate into one space or spread out throughout the whole building.
Where is that space?
In Galaxy, so in Beijing. This is another public building, which is the Opera House in Guangzhou, which also is a kind of allows you this kind of layers between the park, the city, and the actual performance space. So you see all the different layers as you move through the space. So if I can see from above, from below, the way the two buildings kind of nest against each other. So it gives you kind of the possibility of multitude of spaces and experiences. So if you are inside, you're also always conscious of the outside, and you see all the way through. Again, it allows people to filter through the building at the interior of the Opera House. Of course, many of this was possible through computational kind of skills in the office, but I think some of these ideas came out of really trying to look at ways of dealing with ideas of topography and landscape, and how then this allowed you some level of complexity. Was to achieve this complexity was done through computational skills and spatial experiences.
Zaha, come and join us so we can talk a little about the process by which you're working. Most of the people in this room want to make their mark on the world.
This is flashing red, I know.
Don't worry. You're literally making your mark on the world, you know, Bilbao and Singapore and Beijing, and just, you know, the last couple of weeks, news headlines about some of your new projects, you know, the Qatar World Cup Stadium and the World Expo in Izmir for 2020 and this great metro station in Saudi Arabia. But once you get a brief, how do you start? How do you create that process of thinking creatively, but in a way that can be executed?
Well, I think it depends, but most of the time, let's say there is a, okay, I think our training has been always to question the brief, you know, so that we always think that as kind of authors of architecture, we'll not rewrite it, but we have to kind of really react against it. So it's almost like brief writing. And now, if it's a composition, obviously it's very different. The brief is already there. Mm-hmm. But if it's a client, and then we try to understand what they want and go from there. And then, you know, maybe there's a conversation between myself or others in the office together to see how to move forward, but what kind of idea you should have.
Now, the city's changing. We talked about the increasingly data-rich environment. Sensors in the atmosphere are personal devices. How do you rethink what a building is in a public space that is increasingly data-generating?
I don't know. I think the most interesting thing for us is how you can make a completely an environment which is where, you know, all the parts kind of connect together, and that the technology that you are immersed into the space through the spatial experience, not only through technology. And therefore that these adjacencies are very interesting. So the way you kind of really configure the spaces and what they're adjacent to becomes very critical.
And in a world where we are on our devices and you're designing spaces for people to interact, do designing spaces to generate face-to-face interaction as more important than before?
Well, I think it could work both ways, but I think it is very important to create a face-to-face interaction, that you are aware of your adjacent conditions.
Now, we're under a bit of time pressure, but I just want to leave with one question. You're kind of building the dreams, but is there an unfulfilled dream? Is there one project you would really love to take on?
Well, I think there is always a new project in one's head that, you know, I mean, I don't think, no matter how many, every time you get a project, it's is different, because the site is different, your program is different, so in every condition, it is your interpretation therefore is fresher, and so I don't think there is anything. I mean, you know, like, if I was just doing hospitals, maybe I'll say I don't want to do that, but as it is, I haven't. That could be very interesting, for example. I don't think there is I wouldn't say there is something I mean, I think all possibilities are open.
Well, I think we could connect you with a couple of interesting people here to design
I mean,
the world's
I think what has
perfect
been very
hospital.
exciting for us is the possibility to do from very small projects. I just came back from Germany, Switzerland, where we celebrated 20 years of the Vitra fire station. And so that was a fire station, and also the impact of infrastructure also on architecture. So, you know, I think that what has been very exciting is that these boundaries have been very blurred, and you can really, as a designer or an architect, you can design, you know, shoes, or you can design bridges. And that's very kind of, I think it's a very exciting time.
I'm really sorry we don't have more time, but please can we all thank Zaha
Thank you.
Hadid.